Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Liberation Podcast. Today we will be discussing, analyzing, and reviewing Daggermouth by H.M. Wolfe. For more content outside of the podcast, please check out our Instagram and TikTok at Literary Liberation and Twitter at LitLibPodcast. I'm your co-host Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Right on all social media platforms.
And I'm your co-host Kristen. You can find me at TensTBR on all social media platforms.
And we are still fundraising for Code Pink, so look down in the description below. Go visit the link and donate if you have the capacity, or share it around, you know?
So, Daggermouth. Book Talk's new darling. I feel like we should go into a disclaimer before we talk about this book, too. That art is subjective, everyone. Everyone is welcome to their own opinions of whatever things come out. My favorite book is probably not your favorite book. And I can tell if this is your favorite book. It's definitely not my favorite book.
Except we're correct. So, and I'm just kidding. I've been bombarded by this book for, I think, since it came out. Because it just came out March 3rd of 2026. So it hasn't been out for barely a month at this point, and it's picking up steam very quickly. Like, it has very, very high ratings. Like, anybody that's on Book Talk has seen this book. Like, I feel like if you're on it, like, you're sleeping under a rock if you haven't seen Daggermouth on your For You page.
Well, because I think it's even like, this is like one of those books because of the genre too, that I think, because it's like a dark romance, it's hitting that corner of Book Talk, but then it's also a dystopian, so it's hitting like the sci-fi side of Book Talk as well. So it's kind of encompassing a whole realm of Book Talk that maybe typically other, like, just straight dark romances wouldn't cross the threshold, and just straight sci-fis do not cross the threshold, except for unless you're something like Project Hail Mary.
Yeah, and I think with the book coming out and the controversy that surrounded it too on Instagram and Threads, that helped it get a lot more traction, because people were like, okay, I'm going to see like what this is all about. But we don't want to get too far into that. If you don't know what Daggermouth is, it is a quote-unquote true enemies to lovers dystopian dark romance. Like, that is how it is being pitched, how everyone is talking about it, how the author is advertising it as well. There's a lot of tropes that are surrounding this that people like. It has like all of the components that the Book Talk girlies are into, especially given our current political climate. Dystopian novels are particularly popular. So it would make sense that we're going to be having more dystopian romance novels come into the mainstream. Silver Elite is probably one of the other, like, more notable examples. And Vanguard by Karina Halley just came out not too long ago. There's a lot. And they're all like Divergent, Hunger Games, Handmaid's Tale type books, to my knowledge. I've only read this one. I can't say anything about the other ones just yet.
I DNF Silver Elite, which I think there are a lot of comparisons to, like, Silver Elite, which, I mean, like, that's what happened, like, even in 2012, whenever, like, The Hunger Games came out, and The Maze Runner came out, and Divergent was all coming out. Like, all of those books were coming out. They were all being compared and contrasted to each other. So I can see how, like, Silver Elite and Daggermouth can be compared to one another, just because they are basically the same genre, and so they're obviously going to have similar tropes overlapping, with, like, both of these being enemies to lover, both being oppressor fan fictions, basically, you know, because both of the main romances in both of those books that I've read, I don't know about Vanguard, so I can't discuss it, but both of those are, the male is a part of, like, the elite in the society, the oppressor, and the woman is being oppressed in some type of way.
Yeah, and this is, like, something that kind of exists. It has existed in a lot of different romance novels. Like, obviously you have, like, the rags to riches trope. Like, there's always, like, that dynamic is very present in a lot of romance novels, so we're not knocking for that. We're going to talk about this book as technically as we can, because I don't want to, like, punch down on a Black indie author. I don't want to do that, but we do have a lot of criticisms of the novel. I read this and just to see what was going on, and then I told Kristen that we had to review it, one, because it's popular, and two, the politics in here are interesting, to say the least. And nobody's really talking about the politics. They're just talking about the romance on Book Talk.
Which, H.M. Wolfe is anti-Trump, anti-ICE. There was a post that she made not that long ago, I guess, too, where she was like she like quoted Daggermouth specifically as well to say that like she's anti-Trump and anti like tyranny or whatever. I don't know the exact wording in the post. I'm not sure if Mariah knows the exact wording in the post or even what quote it was, because to be honest, it does mirror like the United States in a way, but I think, which we won't go into spoilers, but like I think H.M. Wolfe does have progressive politics, but I would not say they're Marxist politics. I think probably at best H.M. Wolfe is a democratic socialist, but this book reads very liberal and like a liberal critique of society rather than a truly staunch left-wing critique of society. And of course, Mariah and I are principal Marxists, so that is problematic to us that this is not a full communist critique.
My apologies. I was looking to see if I can find a screenshot of the direct quote that was taken. But this is like the whole thing, like the drama. It would be a disservice to not talk about the drama surrounding this book, but that HM, like Kristen did a good job of explaining initially, like, so like HM Wolfe used a quote directly from her own book, right, to talk about it, like ICE and all that, and then some other person on the, I don't know all of these people. I don't have these types of like parasocial relationship. I just see it when it comes up on my For You page. And they were upset because they're like, this is essentially what Sarah J. Maas did with the death of Breonna Taylor. Like, you're using this tragedy to promote your own book. And that's like the main contention. Obviously, there's also like the AI allegations, which Chris and I talked about in a previous episode. If you want to like get into what was said, which it's not a super big, it's not a shy girl sort of allegation.
Well, because, like, I mean, I'm sure somebody will probably do a deep dive on it, too. I mean, Mariah and I obviously both read this, and reading this, it is poorly written, but just because it's poorly written doesn't necessarily make it AI. There's nothing that's like, chat, write me a dystopian romance novel, or chat, write me a smut scene with an oppressor and an oppressee sort of thing. So it's not like we could ever, personally, I don't think me or Mariah could say that it's definitively an AI written book. I mean, who knows? H.M. Wolfe could have used AI in some type of capacity, but to me, it read the same as like Haunting Adeline or an SJM book. So to me, those books were popular before generative AI, texting wise, was so in the mainstream. I don't think this is an AI generated novel, really. Personally, I just again think it's a poorly written book. And I don't think there was an editor because it was indie published, and that is something that you can see within the quality of the book because of the plotting issues and the characterizations are poor. There's a lot not very good about it.
No, like, and that's the whole thing. It's like, I've read AI generate, like, I will never not be able to bring this up. Like, reading an actual AI generated novel that's on like KU, like, gave me a really big frame of reference for how those books, like ChatGPT and AI, constructs its storytelling. This isn't that. And I don't know if people are going to go as far as say that like I don't even remember all of the allegations. I just remember AI was brought up about Daggermouth, and it's just as a book. You can tell it was written by H.M. Wolfe. Like, her voice is very present in here. Like, I can tell, like, this is just how she writes, and that's okay.
I know the only thing me and Mariah were sussed out about, because there is a new cover coming out, because it's being traditionally published now. It's been picked up to be traditionally published. I don't think it's being published until like July or something, which I don't know if they're going to have an editor run through it and change some stuff, maybe make it more polished and better plotting. Hopefully, for the story, I would want this book to succeed as much as it can. I mean, it's already very popular, but the only thing, we saw the new cover and we're like, this is kind of a sus looking cover, and the artist that allegedly did it, the artwork, we looked at like their Instagram page and we did not think that the style matched up. But again, that was just our vibe for the new cover. We thought it was a little off, which it could be that author just branching out, but, or the artist could be branching out, but
I don't know. I went on their official website too.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see, because like, you know, people only post so much on Instagram, so it's like, okay, at least they'll have like their whole portfolio on their official like artist website, and it's very different style than this one. So I don't know, maybe they're getting into like the bookish sphere of like this type of kind of like dark, like the when you see the cover, like, you know, it still has like the same elements, but it's a strange, I don't know. I'm not accusing. I just think it's an odd thing given like what the artist
the original cover drawn. Is better, honestly. I think the new cover is,
yeah, I would agree.
Kind of. But maybe the newer cover is more accurate to what the story is then. It doesn't look that good and the story isn't that good. And I want everybody to know that's a regular listener on the podcast too, because everyone's like, oh, Kristen makes Mariah read bad books. No. I made Mariah read The Teacher. This is worse than The Teacher, y'all. This is worse. If you were here for that episode, we were dogging on that. This is going to be a very similar structure, I think.
And it's not going to be like like us just being like, I have in my head before we were filming this, I knew that we're going to get people that are really upset with what we have to say. However, I know we're not alone in this, because as this book becomes more popular, I'm seeing more people bring up similar critiques that I have. And I don't know. We can get into it. I don't know a whole lot about the author. Normally I can do like a full deep dive into, but she doesn't really have like, she has some books that have come out, but this is like the big hit. Yeah. That's like boosting her author career. So I don't really have anything. I only know that her inspiration, based on what she made on like a Instagram slideshow, was that V for Vendetta, The Handmaid's Tale, and The Hunger Games. Those were like the 3 books that like the vibe matches up with. So I don't know if she was influenced or if that's just the vibe she was trying to recreate, or if she's like, hey, if you like these, you're gonna like it. That's what is on Instagram. This is kind of all I'm going off of.
Marketing
and her TikTok page.
I think to me that's marketing, because that's like, I think, in my opinion too, that's a very cheap way to get people to read your book personally, because I think what's more interesting is having a more unique story that you're getting put in a world that's not like anywhere you've ever been, and this one just being like, oh, it's just like The Hunger Games or V for Vendetta, then you're like, oh, so like. And I think comparing this to The Hunger Games is an insult to The Hunger Games.
This is not like The Hunger Games.
This is like The Hunger Games. It was poorly written Wattpad fanfiction. That's what it is.
I don't get The Hunger Games one. I was very confused when I was seeing that, because I was double checking. I was like, I thought it was Divergent or something, but I saw The Hunger Games. I was like, I don't get that.
I think it's The Hunger Games because of like the way that
capital.
There's like the Capitol, and then there's like District 12, and those are the only 2 things, sort of.
But if you want to hear somebody praising this book, you're going to find a million other reviews. It has a 4.39 star average with 57,000 ratings and 12.5k written reviews at the time of filming this in April of 2026. So I'm sure that's going to change. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but this is your warning. Neither of us, I don't even have like a proper spoiler free. Maybe I can try to conjure one up. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, you go into yours.
If you're thinking, if you have to think, well, so I rated this 1.5 stars, which is also what I rated Haunting Adeline. Because to me, this is of similar quality of Haunting Adeline. This book has its people. I am not one of them. I'm not a big romance reader, dark romance reader, first of all, not at all. I very rarely pick up a romance book. I am a big sci-fi and a dystopian reader, though. I do like those genres, but this is something that, in my opinion, does a really poor job at focusing on what makes a dystopian, where it's actually putting forward important critiques of society that a dystopian is, where this is just bare minimum analysis of society, and the analysis that is there isn't even very good. I think it's misogynistic sometimes, maybe without intentionally, but I do think it's inherently problematic in a lot of ways in the way that it's written, and I just overall think it's really poorly written. I think the plotting is not good, and I think there are a wide variety of plot holes throughout it, which I will be bringing up very clearly once we're in the spoiler zone.
I think I ended up giving this like a flat 2-star rating, and I think there is potential with the politics, like especially in the beginning. There's some talks of like class dynamics I thought was interesting. There is explicit use of the term revolution, which I thought was quite interesting. But like Kristen said, there's very serious plot holes that are not like this wasn't planned. I don't think a lot of what happened in this book was planned methodically, or if it was planned very poorly. And the dialogue, my biggest thing is the dialogue. It's written like a very cheesy CW show, and if you enjoy that, power to you. But these characters, you could say that they were 17, and they're supposed to be over 30.
Yeah,
they don't act like 30-year-olds, and even then, like, the world building is very poor. It's subpar at best. It's really confusing. It's easy to read, like, it's not terribly confusing. The confusing bits are the lack of world building, like that's like the biggest thing, and the lack of like true characterization that is meaningful and impactful, in my opinion. Those are also, like, the biggest hindrances to this, because if those had been built, I think I could look past some other things, because I'm like, okay, she's gonna cook it up in the next book. Maybe.
I want people to know, because we are so critical of this book, this is not us calling H.M. Wolfe or anybody that enjoyed this book and didn't see any of the problems that we saw, like lower intelligence than us or stupider than us or anything like that. I think writing a book is a very big feat. I don't think I could fully write a book unless I really committed a lot of time to it, you know? Like, it's obviously very time consuming. It is a huge feat. But I think because it's put out in the world, I mean, thankfully, I have a KU subscription, so I was able to read it through KU, which I'm still putting my money towards it in a way. I'm putting my time towards it. I mean, this book took me it took me 9 hours to read or something. Like, that is a lot of time to invest in a novel. And so if I'm investing that much time into a book, I expect it to be well written, well plotted, well thought out. And that is why Mariah and I have these critiques as well. We're not like trying to diminish anything. If you enjoyed it, that's great for you. That's just not what happened. And I think we can explain why it wasn't so good. And maybe if H.M. Wolfe were to ever write another novel, or I don't really have any desire to read the second book. I'm sure Mariah will, because Mariah is a masochist in that way. But maybe if these critiques are useful, if you're even writing your own book, you can look at what we say and use those to critique this, because I know a lot of people.
This is all like we're getting into the spoilers. That's where right now, marking the point. This is going to see, like, if you're on YouTube, there's going to be a chapter mark. Spoilers from here on out, and we're going to get into all of the details surrounding it. I know we have direct quotes that were referenced. We have a lot. We're going to get into probably the good first, and then the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly, or whatever that old Western is called. But let's talk. Let's be positive for a moment.
Which it'll be hard to do, but I do think that, because I mean, I didn't give this a 1 star. I didn't give it half a star. I could have done that. But I do agree with Mariah that there is potential, because obviously we do have these 3 distinct boundaries in their society. They have the heart, which is like obviously the elite, which I do have some critiques of that too, but I will ignore them for now. And then you have like the cardinal zone, which is supposed to be like working class sort of area, I guess, is like the idea, like middle class, quote unquote, even though the middle class isn't real, which we can discuss again in the bad. And then you have like the boundary area, which is supposed to be like the poorest of the poor. Which I think,
yeah, like in Marxist terms, it's like the boundary is like the lumpen proletariat, just like the general prole. Where I thought like the cardinal was supposed to be like the petty bourgeois class, and then like obviously the top is
but
like,
they're not.
It's the bourgeoisie, but also it's like the bureaucracy. But the way that the politics in this are constructed, if you have like a robust understanding of like how like economics function, like whether that's through like an anarchist lens or like a Marxist lens or like a democratic socialist lens, like these things, I think you can see that there's potential with the way that they're talking about, because it's very much like caste in this, but I don't think it was constructed with HM.
We're supposed to be talking
Wolfe.
about the good.
I know. I'm trying to be diplomatic in the way I talk about it. It's just really confusing because the feminism that's present, like, it's good that they're talking about, like, the author is talking about like a class-based society and using revolution, but also like there isn't any racism that I could detect, which I thought was really strange. Unless Kristen was able to extract something, it's not there, which is a really interesting choice given the diversity of the characters.
No, because I do think that it's obviously meant to be diverse, because I think Callum and Shade, both of them themselves, they're described as black, which I don't remember Callum specifically being described as black. I know there's at least one time specifically that Shade is mentioned to be black, but I do think it's very like subtly mentioned, which is why I wonder, I think it should have been mentioned more too, where I think if it really was supposed to, because you can tell this is obviously trying to like parrot or parallel like the United States, where we have an insane problem with how racist our society is. We live in a white supremacist society, but then in this world there's no like they don't view anything as like, again, there's just no racism like it, and it doesn't make sense if you're gonna have misogyny and like class division, then racism would also be a part of that, because it's all like you need to be intersectional with it.
I also thought it was interesting how there wasn't I didn't detect any like homophobia or transphobia, like those.
There's no queer characters though, were there?
No,
that I noticed.
To my knowledge, at this point, there were no very obvious queer characters. So like queerness is not an element, and like gender, like the only like commentary you're getting is through kind of like a liberal feminist point of view, where it's just like there's sexism. It's not nearly as apparent in the boundary, but in the cardinal and in the heart you can see it a lot more. But it's very strange. I was wondering throughout this entire book like why that was the choice politically made by the author, and I still can't quite figure out what it is. And it kind of makes more sense when you get, I don't want to get too far ahead. I've been waiting to talk about this book for so long. We're going to keep talking about the good. Anyways, what's the next good thing that we could talk about with this book?
There's not very much.
Okay, I liked the singing with while Shadera is being transferred, right? When she's down in the prison, like the solidarity, like when there's moments of solidarity in this book, I had hope. I was like, okay, this is gonna turn around. But this is I'm viewing the glass half full.
Well, because
you're viewing glass half empty.
Well, the problem was because it just felt so rehashing of the Hunger Games. Does it not? Like, it's literally like the hanging tree, or like their little whistle, or them holding up the little three fingers. Like, it's like, it doesn't feel original. Like, I understand art and music, especially like under fascism, is such an important way of expression, but with whenever it's done in this, it feels just like to be like, oh look, there's this little like, it's not even like about to be a moment of joy. It's used as like a sacrifice because everybody gets mowed down for singing too, and then they use it, and we don't even get any lyrics of the song either. And the idea is that it's like, oh, which I'm assuming, again, this could be completely wrong, but because there's no adequate world building, we have to assume some stuff. We're assuming that Newfound Haven, I think, is like whatever it's called, that is, it used to be like the United States, right? So my question is, are they like singing the national anthem or something? Because they don't say, but they just say it's the anthem from before Newfound Haven was founded. And to me, that means they're singing like the national anthem. And if they're singing the national anthem, I'm sorry, I can't do that as a
that kind
positive.
of like circles back to in some of the kind of like advertising posts that H.M. Wolfe has made. Corrupt government is like the terminology used, or like super very corrupt government, and it's, I don't like the term corrupt. It's functioning exactly how it was designed to function. So
Yeah.
what's corrupt about it? It's like, is it the fact that it's like a governing body and it's not advocating for the people? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like this.
Which, that's one thing. She doesn't use the term capitalist in any way, shape, or form, but it very clearly is like a capitalist society, right? Like, I feel like we're all able to extract that. Obviously, it's supposed to be like late stage capitalism, I guess, where it's like even like the petite bourgeois are now like reaping the suffering of capitalism. But it's also like, to me, it's just like, it's more not even critiquing capitalism, it's like critiquing fascism, or that idea of critiquing like quote unquote authoritarianism that people love to use, you know, where I think the economics are really not discussed, in my opinion. It's a lot more social.
Yeah, I think at best, I think like one of the best things that this book does is like the critique of surveillance. That is kind of a pervasive theme throughout the entirety of the novel, is like surveillance capitalism, but it leans a lot more like 1984 George Orwell type. But it's still done in a meaningful way, with the way that like everyone's being watched, the way that they're kind of like spying on people and how that functions. I thought that was like done pretty decently well. It makes sense like why it would be in this society to the scale that it is, and like the paranoia surrounding Maxim. So I thought that was done well, but that's kind of like where the good ends in this. And we have to get into the plot holes, because the plot holes are kind of what tears apart any semblance of goodness in this.
Well, the first thing I want to bring up, well, because again, I know Mariah has a lot of critiques on the romance too, and I think that's just more because it's poorly written and it's super tropey, where I think that's inherently like, I do not want to read tropes whenever I'm picking up a romance novel, because it kind of spoils it, you know, like learning what's going to happen before it happens, or before you fully know. And the idea is, in this, the book opens with Grayson's character specifically murdering two people on like their execution platform, for two people that are married, or like fornicating, whatever you want to call it, being together outside of the boundary, because they live in two different boundaries. One's like a boundary person, and one is like a cardinal or whatever. And then you see the same thing with Shade's character, where her character is, her parents were two different people, that one lived in one boundary, one lived in the other one, and they loved to cross boundaries, and that's why they got killed. So that is like the main thing that's like, oh, you can't love across boundary. But then the idea that like, oh, here's my evil dictator plan to solve all problems, even though it's completely illegal to love someone in between boundaries. My idea, let's see. Let's get two different people from two different boundaries to get married. Yet that would get anybody else like executed. And you think that's going to make the people positive for you? Like, let's think about that. Whenever we have like Trump or other people very clearly breaking the law right in front of people, the Democrats even, they love to criticize it, but they don't do anything about it. Where the people are seeing, like, whenever like Biden and Kamala, they were both pro-genocide, and people on the left were actually critiquing it and stuff, where we're not supporting them because of that. But then the establishment is like, oh, well, you can just look past that. I mean, I guess it makes sense where you would think the establishment is that stupid to just think that, like, oh, we can do whatever we want. But just doing it so blatantly in front of your face is, like, it doesn't make sense.
The way it's structured, because I get it's supposed to be like what the author of the book Elite Capture talked about, with like this weaponization of identity politics by the economic ruling class. Like, I get that was the intention. However, I think the execution of it, given the way that this world is built and just like the general like trajectory of these characters, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, like, this all-knowing man, and like the way like we kind of get like this political unrest that's happening within the boundary, like why this would be something that would make them complacent, because they're trying to squander any sort of rebellion and revolution, however you want to call it, that's present here. It doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. And like, it just irks my nerves, because like, you're supposed to have this villain of the entire novel that's supposed to be all-knowing, so smart, smartest guy. That's why he's been able to hold power so often. And not one person around him supports him. That's one thing, is that every single person you're introduced to in this book is against him. And to me, it's incredibly problematic and also unrealistic to act like if the women Republican, or like the women like Melania Trump and things like that, activists, they're not exactly where they want to be. And they're not receiving the benefit of the privilege that they have. Even if there are women and the people that they are around are misogynistic, they don't care. They're misogynistic as well.
This is what it was like, one of those moments, especially after I had finished Enemy Feminisms, that I was just, it's just not true. It makes it seem like anybody like that isn't a white man is actually just oppressed and aware of it. But actually, like, you can be a part of an oppressed group and actively work towards like perpetuating your own oppression. It does happen. It is happening. Just because you're a woman, it doesn't mean anything. And the way it's done in this, it doesn't make any sense. I'm telling you, I was reading this by myself, so confused, and I'm seeing all these positive reviews come through, and nobody's talking about this. It's just like, Grayson's a masked man, and he's got a cool tattoo on his back, and Shadera's like a
cool tattoo,
a badass. Yeah,
which
she's like cool and like rage. It's supposed to be like feminine rage or whatever.
Which I'm like glad like there are women within the society that are obviously like against this form of oppression, but it's just so, I don't want to say like utopian, because like it's not utopian, you know, because it's obviously dystopian, but to act as if every single woman that's an elite in the society, which is another thing too, the only elite we see is the president. Can you name one other elite character we see besides the one that's getting like abused by Callum in one other scene?
No, exactly. Because it's more fixated on like the two different, the romance and then the quote unquote love triangle, which, newsflash, is not a fucking love triangle. That I don't know how to. There's no here's the thing, the fucking romances in here really piss me off, because like you can have it, but the relationships, which Kristen had brought up, are used as a means of delivering like smut scenes. That's it. Like, they're not compelling romances. I'm not related to that. I don't feel bad for them. People are crying over this book. Why?
There's literally
just
no reason
alone,
to cry.
I don't get it.
Well, because that's one thing that's so frustrating too, because you can tell, like, the thing is that this is, you know, it's supposed to be like Hunger Games fan fiction, because like Jameson is our most, he is our most revolutionary character, but I say that as like a grain of salt, because none of these characters are very truly revolutionary either, where they want what's best for like society or anything too. It's almost like there was a great video I saw on TikTok the other day that was like, most white people are only anti-capitalist because capitalism stopped working for them because of their class, rather than being anti-racist first. And that's how this story feels, is that it's anti-capitalist within the society because it's not working for these people, because there's no element of race discussed in this. And so
It
there's
was
no
such a weird
anti-racism.
choice. Like, you can, and I get, like, I don't expect, like, any, I don't even know how to word this. Like, I'm not, just because H.M. Wolfe is black, I'm not expecting her just to write, like, trauma porn of, like, racism or whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's hard, because, like, I had originally gone into this thinking it was going to be more like Parable of the Talents type.
Yes. That's a
dystopian. I was like, okay, it's gonna be, that's my fault. I shouldn't have made the assumption in that way, but I see these dystopian romances all the time, so I was like, okay, at least this one seems to be the one. And then I see like the terms like revolution being thrown around, and I was like, okay, sick. And it doesn't build to anything, and it's really frustrating. And I get, like, I am just a white bitch, but I'm also like really well, like, I read a lot of shit, like I know a lot of history and whatnot, and it just feels like this is lacking so much of like the special sauce that could make it good. Like, if you want to worry about the romance, like, that's fine. I think that should have been prioritized and written well, because then at least you can overlook it. But this is just like, it's missing both of the components that make this book.
That's what's the problem too with like it being an oppressor and the oppressed, because it tries to build so much sympathy for the oppressors within this society too, where Grayson himself as a character is like, woe is me. He's like incredibly emo. He's like, I do what I can by sometimes sending food and medicine out because I'm a good guy, but also lacking any type of conviction to do anything truly revolutionary, where the most they're doing in this book is mutual aid.
At best. And even then,
At
it's
best.
more like charity work.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, if this is like Barron and Ivanka Trump, like,
I
are
don't
you
care.
telling me that they're just like they're just propagandized and they're just being oppressed by their own father? That's what I'm saying. I was like, this is, let's take a real world example. Like, obviously, that's going to be the one that people are going to be connected to the most, because Donald Trump is the president. He has 2 kids.
He has more than 2 kids, significantly more.
I know, he does.
Yeah, Donald Trump Jr.
But like, those are the 2 ones that like people know off the top of their head. And I was just like, this doesn't work, because Barron Trump, he's just going to be a fascist.
Literally. And that's what's so frustrating too with the idea of even with the one brother, Brooker, that dude is my mortal enemy. I hate that guy so much, because first off, the way, if you're reading a good novel, a good one, underline good, there is some type of foreshadowing significantly before the reveal, right? And we have Brooker's character entirely is like a plot hole within itself, right? Because we have the idea that Grayson's brother was murdered by a Daggermouth, right? And that's why he hates the Daggermouth. That's like his one driving anger, is the Daggermouths murdered his brother, and so that's why he wants to eradicate the Daggermouths off this earth, right? And his entirety, first off, you end up learning that one, Booker is not actually dead. He fakes his death to join the resistance, is what you're first told, right? And because of that, it's first inherently problematic, because they're like, Shade finds a picture of the 2 brothers, and she's like, this dude looks familiar. First off, it said he used to die like maybe 10 years ago at max. She would have been 20. He would have been older than 20. You don't change looks that much from like 25 to 35, right? Like, your face is already done. You think you murdered this person that's a pretty high, she was only told that it was supposed to be like a cardinal informant or whatever, and he was using an alias. I think you would recognize his face, right? Unless you have like incredible face blindness, which I don't think is something that she has, because it would have never been mentioned until that point, which again, terrible foreshadowing. And then 2, she thinks she actually killed this guy, but then it turns out she didn't. How do you mess up that bad? Where you're supposed to be the greatest
why she didn't
assassin.
just blast him down. Like, make sure you... she's supposed to be, like, the best assassin. That's what...
Yes.
None of the... this shit doesn't make any sense, because then it kind of, like, circles back into... Like, if we look past the technicalities, like, this, like, Brooker being killed by Daggermouth, and then Shadera's parents being killed by the Heart elites is the main antagonism that causes them to be enemies to lovers. But it's not, because we realize, oh my god, it's just a misunderstanding, because it wasn't even what we thought it was. So they're not actually enemies to lovers.
No, literally. And it doesn't make any sense either, because, like, Jaeger, the leader of the Daggermouths, knows that he wasn't actually supposed to die, because they found a fake body that looked like him, beat him up to, like, fake his death. But you don't have your lead assassin in on this plan, where she can't be like, oh, hey, by the way, we actually faked his death, like, to Grayson. But no, it's used to, like, be a further misunderstanding, where even it could have been done better, too, because when we find out that Shade killed, I'm using that in quotes, guys, Brooker, a chapter before, we discover that he's not even actually dead, even though we're led the whole novel to believe, where that reveal should have been done later, if you want it to even make sense in our minds. Like, the dramatic irony does not work here.
I think the last, like, 5 to 10% of this book, it was just, like, back-to-back plot twist, unveiling.
Poorly written plot twist, too. Like,
I was stunned. Have you seen the people on TikTok or Book Talk, like, reacting? I sent you a couple where they're like, reading the last 5% of Daggermouth. And it's like...
And they're, like, crying?
They're crying. They're like, oh my god, what's happening? Yeah, me too. I was like, mind you, I read a lot of this book Garden, so I thought that was part of the problem. I was like, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. But it just all happens in the last, and like, 10 to 15%. And then especially the last 5%.
Bro, the big twist is that actually Brooker faked his death so he can infiltrate the rebellion and destroy the rebellion from the inside. He did a really shit job of that. That's for damn sure. Because obviously he didn't deter anything, because nothing happens.
I just don't get it, because, like, how do you have, like, your revolutionary organization, like, you're working on, like, overthrowing this, like, extremely, like, I don't even know what you would call this. This is, like, beyond. This is, like, feudal fascism, essentially. Like, the way they've been able to recreate, like, the feudal society, but also it's, like, late stage, like, fucking fascism. I don't know. How do you not vet people more? Why would you have this guy who's in the family in such a high position in your revolutionary organization? That would not fucking happen. Could you imagine? It's like
Anastasia.
If the Bolsheviks had Anastasia and they're like, no, this is good. What?
I don't know. Well, because, like, again, going to, like, the other plot twist, that's, like, the thing, because then you end up learning that Captain Michael, the leader of the guard, is actually Grayson's father, and he's a part of the revolution. So you're telling me he's been sleeping with the president's wife and faced no consequences, and it comes to fruition that the president knew this whole time that his wife was a whore, and she didn't face any consequences for that from this evil dude. He was just like, let me store up all these secrets to myself. What?
That whole unveiling because the whole thing with, like, Grayson's mom is really weird in general. Like, the way she acts, like, she's being abused, like, she's in a domestic violence situation, but also, like, he's kind of her, like, captor. I don't know. It's a really weird situation all around, but there's no inkling. There's no, like, lingering
there's no even, like,
between...
What he could have easily done is just been like, Grayson does not resemble his father at all. He favors his mother extremely, while Lila and Brooker favor their father. That could have been something where that's, like, the simple foreshadowing that you need to prove this, where it's like, for some reason, Grayson's like the black sheep where he doesn't look anything like his family. And then you get those inklings in your head where like, oh, well, maybe. But no, because his father's so abusive that there's no way that she would have been able to get away with this. And do they have paternity tests? How do they know that Grayson is only Michael's son if obviously they've been dicking a around for years? How do we know the other two children aren't his too? Because he's like, the only excuse is that she's in a loveless marriage. How does that mean that this was the time that you got her pregnant?
I thought about that too. I have no idea.
Like, how do you know that that guy's your son?
More plot holes. That was a weird one. That one I felt was so remarkably unnecessary.
Yeah.
And also,
it was
just like a throwaway twist. Because then you're supposed to like feel for him, and then he's gonna dive in front of Grayson and take a bullet for his son.
Did he die? I think he died.
Yeah. He got shot. I don't know.
Because Calvin died too. That one I was like, oh my god, this is just
that like... I think is the one that everyone's crying over.
Oh, that's so stupid. Which, Callum's character is literally just, like, Walmart Temu version of fucking Finnick. Because his whole thing is like, I trade in secrets, and I, abuse people and get all of their secrets. That's why I'm basically the Heart Mafia, and I have all of this insider knowledge. That's his whole, like, shtick. Where it's like, okay, again, not an original character. Literally just like copy and paste the Hunger Games. Like, copy my answers, but don't make it obvious. But it's obvious.
And I get like it's probably hard to write a dystopian novel after the Hunger Games and Divergent have been out because of the way that like Suzanne Collins, she ate with the Hunger Games. She ate with Sunrise on the Reaping. I'm not going to talk about Ballad Sunburst Nights. That's like a whole fucking thing. But like the rest, they're great. And it's hard to follow in that shadow. I get that. But this was very poor. I cannot stop thinking about how poor it is despite the high rating. And I feel like what
if I love this? Literate? What if I finished this and I was like, this is a 5-star read? And then...
I was scared. I was really scared. I was like, what are the odds? And I was like, there's no way. There's no way.
And then another thing too, because like, so they're supposed to do like this whole wedding thing, but let me put them on stage after I've been abusing both of these people for 2 days straight and put them up on a stage. And you see this woman with bruises and stuff. And then you see like the president be like, and look at the happy couple. This is what you're using to deter your rebellion? You think they're going to see one of the highest ranking Daggermouths and be like, yes, this is awesome. I love that you beat up our queen. Like, what are you thinking? Because the only way that Maxim rules is in fear. It's not in any competence in any way, shape, or forms. It's literally just fear. And that does not work, like, logically. Because if people are so scared, then they have genuinely nothing to lose. Like, these people quite literally have nothing to lose. Because even if they step one toe out of line, they're dead. So,
you have nothing to lose but your chains, as Karl Marx once said.
But that's what I'm saying. But this is, like, worse than, like, even now. Like, there are still so many privileges that we have now under, like, under capitalism, living here in the United States specifically. I won't talk about, like, the global south. Like, obviously, like, those places fucking suck, I'm sure. But, like, here, we have so many privileges. Versus, in this book, there is nothing. Literally nothing. How have you not rebelled sooner? That's my question.
Yeah, especially in the heart, it doesn't make any sense. Because, like, you see, like, the last little bit.
They don't even have privileges.
What's her name? Lyra? Right? Yeah. She organizes a woman's removal of masks.
And which is very, like, handmaids.
It was very, like, I watched the Handmaid's show. It's very handmaid-esque. And that's all I gotta say about that. Which is so weird. Which is such a weird thing, especially because of, like, the criticisms about The Handmaid's Tale. Because a lot of it, feminism? Like, Margaret Atwood took, like, very specific, like, instances of, like, what happened to, like, Black and Indigenous women and kind of just, like, wrote it into her novel. Whereas, like, Octavia Butler in Parable of the Talents, it's done a lot more effective. It makes more sense the way it's done. But in The Handmaids, it's we gotta read the book or something because I reference it a
You
lot.
just made me
in
read
the show.
this. I'm done
I'm gonna
hating
read
Mariah
it.
Rex. I'm done with Mariah
This
Rex.
was, I knew you wouldn't like it in my heart and soul. There was like a 97% chance that you wouldn't like it. There was only a 3% chance that you would enjoy it, and I was willing to take those odds.
3% chance that I was gonna like it, which I knew I wasn't gonna like it. That's why I had no plans of reading it, because I had already DNF'd Silver Elite, and I DNF'd that. I was like, well, I know this genre isn't for me, so I shouldn't have to read this, and I wasn't going to. And I'm telling you, if we weren't recording this podcast, I would have DNF'd this book 5 times over. Like, within the first 50 pages, I would have DNF'd. I would have DNF'd it at 100 pages. I would have DNF'd it at 500 pages if we weren't doing this podcast, if I actually even made it that far. Like, this would have been a DNF, and it should have been. I wish I had the power to do that, but unfortunately, Mariah, it's like, we have to review it. So, blame Mariah. If we get any hate, it better all go to Mariah, because I was forced to read this against my will.
I will accept it, and I can find direct quotes, which we didn't even... this episode would easily be like 2.5 hours long if we went through every single quote that we had.
I highlighted like 40 things.
I feel like we barely even touched on so much, but you can't because then it'll just take you on a different like tangent. Like, it's just, I think it's okay to acknowledge like this is just not done well. This is, and unfortunately I'm gonna have to read the second one because I don't know how this can continue. Because at the very end, it's called the next one's called Python.
Do you think it's gonna be like a prequel? Because we didn't even talk about the reveal of Grayson's mother actually being the Python, the secret rebel that's been living in the heart for years and years, and they were gonna try to extract her or something. Which I think, low key, like, I don't want to say anything because like the way that her character is written, I think she's a poorly written female character because, first off, so she has her husband, which is like abusive. Cheat on your abusive husbands, I don't care. Which she did with Michael. But then also there's like insinuation about Jaeger, however you want to say his name, the Daggermouth leader. He knows who Python is. And to me, once we get the reveal that she's Python, is she also saying that she had a relationship with him? And is that like some other freaky love triangle sort of thing? That's like, so I don't know.
I hope it's like a why choose situation.
Well, I mean, she obviously chooses something because she kills the president at the end, and so I don't even understand like what is the point of a sequel? What is going to happen next?
I don't know, because the whole thing, right, is like everything's gonna get better. Like, that's kind of how it's pitched, is if they kill this guy, everything's gonna be fine. Question mark. Even though there is like the family that was going to get married into, like, with Grayson, the daughter or whatever.
The daughter.
She's the only one that we have any sort of insinuation that she actually supports the heart, but we don't.
That's literally like the only other elite family reference. There's no other like people there that are doing the oppressing. It's literally just this one guy oppressing everyone.
It's very confusing. It's very confusing because as Marxist, I guess if you're not a Marxist, maybe it's not confusing. And I don't know if that's a mean thing to say. But the politics of this book are very like superficial at best. Because if you think about them at all, it kind of crumbles and falls apart. Like, there's potential. I'll read Python, which I'm hoping it is a prequel, but at the same time, if it's a prequel,
who cares?
I don't know, because like the author, the way she's talking about it is like, Python's gonna make this one look like a walk in the park. Like, I don't know what that means.
I think that means that it's gonna be a prequel and we get to read all about the abuse that their mother faced the whole time, while she was also secretly a part of the rebellion, like every other fucking character in this book. And if everybody's a part of the secret rebellion, why don't we just make it an open rebellion and actually do something rather than just doing it in the shadows?
Manacled and its consequences.
Yeah. I mean, I read Manacled. I think Manacled was better written, at least. Like, it made sense, where I feel like a lot of the time I was reading this, and it's like, me and Mariah were like making memes where she was like, it's like the fedora hat tipping, or like the Debbie Ryan, like that's the vibe of this book. And if that's what you like,
no, literally, because you can read like most of these in like like the quotes in a Batman voice, and it works.
I mean, the main dude has a fucking giant skull tattooed on his back, and you're supposed to look at that and think that that's cool. Some dude comes up to me with a giant fucking skull taking up his entire back. I'm laughing at him. I'm making fun of him. Because why? What world would you think having a big skull on your back is badass?
I don't know, because I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be like his symbol of his merit in this oppressive society. So is this like the same as having some sort of like Nazi memorabilia? Like that's, I was like, what is the this is supposed to be hot, but like also like what it represents in their society is like objectively a bad thing.
Mariah hating on the mask. Mariah hates the mask.
Like, the masks don't make any sense, because this is another plot hole. The way that the masks are talked about, but then also you can like kind of see people's facial expressions, so it made me think it was like a masquerade mask. But then Kristen was going back and said it is a full mask, so then it means that they have like, but they're also eating with the masks on.
Like, I think it's like something where like their eyes and their mouth is open. It's like a almost like
it would have to be a bigger mouth thing if you're eating with
I think it's
on.
like a ski mask type of style. Like,
this is stupid.
I do agree.
I think the whole mask thing, I'm over.
Which, again, it doesn't make any sense, because the idea of the mask is to oppress people, right? Like, but why are the elites all wearing masks if it's supposed to be a form of oppression? Shouldn't you be oppressing the poor people, the weak people? Weak, quote unquote. Am I wrong? Like,
it would make more sense if it was like everyone after a certain age had to wear them, and then like your mask was a symbol of your position in like the society economic, too. Like you could have it encrusted with jewels. Yeah, something like that. But that's not. They just don't give a fuck what happens to the boundary. It's the elites that get to wear masks,
which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any
because
sense.
It's like a very specific quantifier. Like if you're wearing a mask, it means that you're approved by the government.
But all of the people that live in the heart have masks, but not the cardinals. Those, they don't get masks.
It's just
which again doesn't make any sense, because it's a tool of oppression. I understand that, but why are the elites oppressing themselves?
I don't fucking know, man. It's fucking confusing. I have been thinking about this since I finished it, and I finished it not last month? It was like month before. No,
you finished it.
I had to have read it last month.
Yeah,
because it just came out. It feels like a million years ago.
I finished it today.
I think about it constantly because it's
some nonfiction recs. If you read this and enjoyed it, do better. But also, maybe you should read one of these nonfiction books that we have to recommend to maybe open your mind's eye to our Marxist critiques and understand why we are so critical of this book. Feminism for the 99%, which is just like a short little manifesto. I think it's less than 100 pages or right around 100 pages, which that has a great critique on why like Lyra's character is so problematic, and also why Python, what is their mom's even name? I don't even know. Whatever their mom's name is. I think it would have a great critique of their characters, and then also make you understand why not necessarily those women that are in parallel situations currently now in the United States would be there. It talks about like why they would also be oppressors a bit.
Yeah. And the same thing with like Woman, Race, and Class or Enemy Feminisms, which I think you should read both because they go together really well. I think that's like the perfect feminism primer. I think if you read those 3 books, you're pretty well set. And then I think if you want to learn about a class-based society, you should read the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. It's a banger. I think about it all the time. Like the opening lines of the Communist Manifesto just hit so hard. A specter is haunting
Europe. The specter of communism.
Oh, I love it so much.
So goated. Yeah, of course, read that. Which, again, I think Feminism for the 99% and the Communist Manifesto are not, like, really works of, like, education in, like, a full sense. They're more just, like, good for you to read and reflect on how you view society, I think.
Just like the essence of a manifesto. It's supposed to manifest something within you. It's supposed to make you see things. Like, just to get the ball rolling.
Yes.
And then read the other books. There's also The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. I haven't actually finished this one by Shoshana Zuboff, but it's all about surveillance and like the digital future. It's really interesting. I think I got to like the halfway point and then my Libby hold ran out. So I gotta finish it. But if you like learning about technology, because surveillance is such a big thing in here, I think that's the best one I've read so far. And I haven't even finished it.
Watch the ending of that, be like, and liberalism, and this is why we need liberalism. And he just recommended it.
And then read 107 Days by Kamala Harris. Just kidding. I'll edit that out.
Don't read that.
Read Combat Liberalism by Mao Zedong.
Yeah. But I guess we don't really have anything else to say. Next up on the podcast will be our book club review, and if you are listening to this, there's still about a week left or so on our book club book. We are reading You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. So if you would like to join us and read along with us on our Fable Lit Lib Pod, and it's linked below. And other than that, like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, or just follow us on whatever audio listening platform you are. Rate us 5 stars. Give us a thumbs up.
I also need to know if you are somebody that's like a self-described leftist, Marxist, socialist, whatever you have, and you love this book, I need to know why. I need to know why. What am I missing? I can't be alone in this. And apparently
my
it's
question
a lot,
is that if you're a leftist and you love this book, let me know what nonfiction you be reading. That's my question. Let me know. Just curious. But other than that, thanks for listening. So thank you and good night.